piped into episode 126. I look at some of these podcasts and I go, how do they have so many episodes? And now I'm part of one of those podcasts where there's just so many episodes. I can't wait to get into this particular conversation today in our feature interview brought to you by Sense Arena. Jack LaFontaine, the Mike Richter Award winner, will stop by, and presented by the Hockey Shop, source for sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com. Our gear segment will tackle the True TF9 goalie skate. It's off the rack and it's ready for you. Officially launched. I can't wait to talk about the true development and the progression of the skate as we bring in the co-founders of In Goal Magazine. Here's Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison. That's a record because Kevin Woodley was doing the, can I just chime in a little bit before I even introduced him? That's what he was doing. You may have not have witnessed it, Hutch, but
I was sensing a segue to talk about our friends at the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com right out of the gate. Get it out of the way as we tease the new TF9 goalie skate. Because where else are you going to buy it? You may have, it was tough, right? With a true goalie skate in the past, everything was custom only. You needed to have that scan done on your foot. So in terms of, if you're not blessed like I am to live in the Lower Mainland and live in the Vancouver area, Hutch, short ferry ride over from the island.
Much nicer. It
was tough to buy a true goalie skate from thehockeyshop.com from a distance because it was custom only. You couldn't, you had to have that scan done. You can't really do that over the computer. So we have got a solution for you. We've been rolling out all these new equipment lines, and we have more coming over the coming weeks here at In Goal Radio, the podcast with our friends at the Hockey Shop. And the new True Skate is the latest in that new release line. It actually comes out today as we record this. And for the first time, you're going to be able to buy a skate off the wall from True when you walk into the goalie skate department, or in the case of people who don't live here, you're going to be able to buy your skate from thehockeyshop.com, a true skate, without needing to go through that whole custom molding process and get it shipped to you and have a skate that fits. So exciting times for the True Skate department, exciting times at thehockeyshop.com. And like I said, just one of many. Last week we talked about the Bauer Pro Elite and GSX skates, all the different lines there. We've got new skates. We've got new sticks coming out in the coming weeks, all the new gear that's out. And there's only one place to find all your information about the latest gear. That's thehockeyshop.com. If you've got questions, Cam will give you the number later in the show. If you've got questions and you think you want to know more online, we don't talk about this. Their reviews are excellent. They don't just list the product they have on there. When new product comes in, they take the time to get it on the ice, take some photos, and write a quick review to give you a sense of how it plays and how it feels. Make sure you check them out at thehockeyshop.com.
I have questions about the TF9 skate. I'm going to wait and see if they are all answered through the gear segment with Cam and Woody. And if they're not, then I'm going to pipe them over to Woody to see if they can be taken care of. So just letting you know right now that there's I'm just more curious about the off the rack versus the custom and what the difference is, and a lot of the different angles that are obviously a little bit outside of what we're used to with the True Skate. We also have a Vezina Trophy winner from last week as we acknowledge Marc-Andre Fleury winning the award for the first time in his career, 17th season, 36 years of age. And a quick comment from both Woody and Hutch on Marc-Andre Fleury, and then we'll get into the voting.
I have never in my life bet on anything around sports, but Woody and I had a conversation that had me looking around to maybe put a few dollars down on Andrei Vasilevsky winning the Vezina Trophy. Such was the strength of our convictions that the NHL general managers would go with the win category and not the guy that Woody will tell us all again was the deserving winner based on those advanced statistics that we get from Clearsight Analytics. And of course, we're all big fans of Marc-Andre Fleury. So I was thrilled to see him take the win home. And I was also thrilled that I still have never bet on anything relating to sports. But Woody, what'd you think when you saw it?
I was excited, first of all, because they got it right. right? Like when I heard that he had won, I was out that night, so I wasn't able to sort of read through the results and the voting that they actually publish. But just the fact that he won, I was so pumped for Marc-Andre Fleury. It was hard. Like we're supposed to be, as sports writers, objective observers, right, Darren? But you cheer for people.
Yeah,
and
this is a people's win.
Yeah, you cheer. I've always said this, and I've sent this note to guys after they won the cup. Like, I wasn't cheering for guys that I got to know while they were here in Vancouver and went on to win cups elsewhere. It's like, I wasn't cheering for your team, man, but I cheer for good stories. I love good stories as a writer, and I cheer for good people. And I was cheering for Marc-Andre. Not that Andre Vasilevsky isn't. That's the one thing too here. Fully deserving of all the votes. Like, and I be honest with you, I think that's where sentiment won the day amongst the general managers. Is there's a lifetime achievement element to this, right? Like, I say he was the best goalie this season and fully deserves the award based on the stats that we've run down. Paul Campbell wrote an excellent article at ingoalmag.com that you can read. That basically lays out the case where Marc-Andre Fleury is 100% the deserving winner. There was probably an element of the other part, like that they felt the same way. Like, this is a good human being story, a guy who has come through so much. Not only does he deserve it based on the season he had as the best goalie in the NHL this year, but all these other things that we love about Marc-Andre Fleury, the career path. Now, I'm not willing, however, to let the general managers off the hook because they got it right for whatever reason, simply because when I looked at the voting, 3 guys didn't even have Andre Vasilevsky on their ballot. So again, I may have been, and the article and the numbers all said Marc-Andre Fleury ahead of Andre Vasilevsky, but not by a margin where you don't even have him on your ballot. What were you watching? What numbers are you looking at that and the irony, of course, is last year I would have told you, what were you looking at that Andre Vasilevsky deserved to be in the final 3? And the answer, of course, is wins. And that's almost always what they vote on. This year, they went off the board and didn't go straight wins. Flower gets his Vezina, but I would love to know which 3 did not include Vasilevsky and love to hear what reasoning they had for it. Because I hammered them for having him 3rd last year, and I'm hammering those 3 for not having them on the ballot this year. And the truth is, if all 3 are second place votes, as they probably should have been, we might be having a different conversation about who won the Vezina. I'd be mad for a different reason. So at the end of the day, I'm mad no matter what.
Yeah.
But I am happy for Marc-Andre Fleury.
We're used to that. First place votes, it was really close. 14 for Marc-Andre Fleury and 12 for Andre Vasilevsky. And the next best was Philip Grubauer and Connor Hellebuck, who both received 2 first place votes. Your top 5 in the Vezina voting this year were Fleury, Vasilevsky, Grubauer, then Hellebuck, and Semyon Varlamov, also receiving consideration. UC Saros, who actually received attention on 8 ballots this year. And that's pretty significant. And Mike Smith, who received a couple of third place votes.
So a couple of people listened to the In Goal Radio podcast when we did the episode and we talked about who was going to finish there. But at the end of the day, and we argued on the Grubauer thing a couple of weeks ago. We've had that discussion. Like, all those names you mentioned legitimately could have had third place votes.
Deserve to be there.
Yeah, Saros, Grubauer, Mike Smith too. Like, you could make legitimate arguments a little bit that they're on your ballot for a third place vote. But ahead of Vasilevsky, Hellebuck too, like that would have been my third place guy. But ahead of Vasilevsky and ahead of Flower, those are arguments that I'd love to see them make. But
they got it right. So can you not just sit back and enjoy the moment? Because the end result, the path may not be perfect, but the result was.
So okay. Listen, they got it. I'm happy. Mm-hmm. I'm happy. They got it right by, in some cases, a bit of an accident. Like, 3 guys screwed it up so badly that they got it right. Like, okay, I'm happy. Don't get me wrong. Like, throw the confetti. I'm literally, if we did this on YouTube, I'd be throwing confetti in the air right now. I'm trying to do it with my hands. But again, the only reason it happened is because 3 guys were so far off that it didn't screw it up. So at the end of the day, we celebrate the win. We celebrate the small victory that is the NHL general managers by purpose or accident, getting Marc-Andre Fleury their Vezina Trophy win, and I guess I should just be happy.
It was
with
a
that.
2-horse race, though. When you end up looking at the voting, there was nobody. Even with Philip Grubauer, I honestly thought he'd be closer when the voting came out than he was. But it was 108 points for Fleury. Vasilevsky had 99, and then it dropped all the way down to 36 for Grubauer.
Yeah. So, and how many votes? How many points for a second place vote? 3.
That I don't know.
So it's, anyways, at the end of the day, like you said, it was a 2-horse race, and the fact that 3 people missed one of the horses.
You were trying
completely,
to loop back around to that whole argument again for a third time, weren't you? That's what you're trying to do.
Well, yeah, because 3 guys screwed it up.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna listen. The Professional Hockey Writers Association, which I'm not even a part of anymore because I work for the NHL, so I don't get a vote. And frankly, it's a lot of work because when I did get a vote, I put a lot of time and effort into it. You don't get paid for it. You just want to get it right. But there's a transparency there, right? In terms of I believe they publish the votes now. So you want to make sure you put the effort in. And I've seen some writers get absolutely hammered for revealing, Lady Bing and stuff like that. And then just get hammered online. So I'm not willing to completely let the 3 general managers off the hook. I've beat the drum that they don't do this right most of the years.
Compared to the Jack Adams Award this year, where I agree with the winner in Rod Brindamore, but a couple of coaches that didn't make the playoffs got votes, which I was blown away by, and one coach got fired, and he still got votes. So I think compared to that and what the broadcasters did, the general managers nailed this thing. With a 1-2 with Andrei Vasilevsky and Marc-Andre Fleury, despite your protests.
Don't get me started with the General Manager of the Year award.
I like that award because it takes into account what happens in the first couple of rounds of the playoffs with the GM of the Year award. That one is there's a little bit more flexibility on it.
I'll give you that.
Okay, thank you. Hutch is just sitting back going, why are you guys, you guys agree on this? Why are you even arguing?
I'm enjoying this.
It's
so I did look it up.
Show.
You get 3 points for a second place vote. So if all 3 guys, so maybe I should let them off the hook here. If all 3 guys had given him the second place vote, it would have been a tie at 108. And I believe Flower had more first place votes, which I think would break that tie. So they would have got it right anyway. So my apologies to all the GMs. This is the only time you ever hear me say you should be allowed to keep voting, but you probably shouldn't be. So,
just those 3 guys can't.
Just take it.
What do you want? 3 guys expelled from the goalie vote?
I can't believe he rails on them, and then they actually get it right, and then he starts micromanaging the voting.
Well,
Flower.
The group got it right. The individuals got it wrong. That's okay.
36 years of age, and he joins an elite company. I mean, you don't win too many individual awards when you're past your mid-30s. And the other part of it is it's his first ever individual award, and he wins the Jennings and the Vezina. I think he was already a lock for the Hall of Fame, but Hutch, this makes it a really easy decision when he retires to put him into that hallowed hall and give him a plaque.
Sort of puts an extra lock on it, doesn't it? Yeah, it's a double lock door.
Gives
now,
him the access to the VIP room.
Oh, there you go. There you go. Maybe he'll get an extra large plaque now or something too.
What if he adds an Olympic gold next year?
The part is really intriguing. I didn't think that there was a chance that he would be in the mix for that.
No.
Vezina, you can have a great year, and that was impressive. Like, he came out of nowhere to do that, especially over the transition from the bubble to where he is right now. But to be in the mix for the Olympic team, Carey Price, and then is it wide open? If you were going a year ago, you would have included names like a Carter Hart would have been in the mix. There's significant work to do on that regard. Now you're looking at Mike Smith, who is 2014. He was on that team. You've got Marc-Andre Fleury, who's on the 2010 team.
He's already got a goal. Yeah, I forgot about that. Got a goal. Didn't play, but
with Luongo and Martin Brodeur. But like 2022, it's a real possibility if he comes out of the gate and plays to the level that we've witnessed in this 56-game season.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think you would expect it. The only competition would be Carey, and a lot of people will probably be swayed by what they're seeing now, him being such a money goaltender. But then what a complicated puzzle given the regular season Carey's had over the last couple of years, and they'll be choosing that goaltender based on, how they start the season. Or will they be choosing NHL goaltenders, guys?
Yeah, if the NHL doesn't go, then
I sure hope they are. I sure hope they are.
Then the tournaments, who knows what they're going to do, because, and that's got Hockey Canada's, everybody, all the federations will be in a pickle. Jordan Binnington, I'll throw his name out there as well. Doug Armstrong's the general manager. He gets to watch Jordan Binnington. He watched Jordan Binnington win a Stanley Cup. So I'll put that name into the mix. But Marc-Andre Fleury, based on the competition, based on what he's done in the last year and going forward, good on him.
Hey, and based on the person he is. Right? Because at the World Juniors levels, I'm not part of those conversations, but I've had the conversations about how the decisions were made, and that the tandem and how guys fit into it is part of that. Like, will this guy play that role? And that Marc-Andre Fleury, regardless, and we heard a lot about, and from Robin Lehner too, about the relationship amidst a lot of outside focus on who should have played and how they handled things. Their support for each other seemed to be genuine and as strong as you could imagine, and just genuine. And a big part of that is the people you're talking about. And Marc-Andre Fleury would go over there in whatever role and just be Marc-Andre Fleury, and that is always a positive.
So here's the question. What if Carey Price gets off to the same regular season start next year that he had this year? Does he still go?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he still goes, but boy, it would be interesting to see what happens early based on performance, because again, the playoffs that he's having right now follow a month off, not on purpose because of the concussion, but time off seems to matter a lot. And this is something that we can get into in the future, but I think next year, we can talk about this more later, but I think next year is going to be harder on goaltenders, a lot harder on goaltenders than this year was. I know this was condensed. I know it was, sometimes 4 or 5 games a week, but you are going to be looking next year at condensed schedule if they go to the Olympics, and they still want to have an all-star game.
It's in Vegas. You guys can come.
Ooh,
yes.
Can we Casa Millard?
Yeah.
Ooh, he might regret those words. Darren's like, when is the border open?
Yeah.
So you've got you got both of those events. You've got a condensed schedule. No more number 3 goalies. No more staying in the same town for multiple days and sort of getting settled in a climate. I think the demands on goaltenders next year are going to be even more severe than they were this year. You're not going to get practices off. You're not going to be able to pull the guy up from the taxi squad to take half the reps. It is going to be a real grind and a real challenge. And for teams like Montreal, coming off of a shortened summer.
What's wrong with you today?
Mr. Negative,
totally.
I got my second shot. I got my second shot, which again should be a cause for celebration. But the tightness in the arm got into the shoulder. Little nerve pain.
Stop, you hypochondriac! Oh my gosh!
I'm trying to find a reason for being negative. I'm trying to find an excuse. I got a smile on my face the whole time today.
I wish I was the nurse in the vaccination center so I could have put saline into you and then watched you whine about how hard it hit you.
I wish I was the doctor or the nurse and I could just give him some kind of sedative. The way he's been moaning.
I just can't wait till we find out that 2 years from now is the hardest year ever on NHL goaltenders.
So they got it right in the voting. Marc-Andre Fleury, Woody wanted to win. He does win. He's not happy with that. Now he's not happy with this year going off a 56-game schedule, which was so hard on goaltenders that he thinks it's going to be harder next year. We better get to the gear segment here before
you know what would make me happy.
Yeah.
What would make me happy is a trip to Goalie Utopia.
Well, that would be great. And I would like to send you there right now. If for no other reason than just to get you out of our grill for a couple of minutes and get some positivity. The skates on the other foot now as Cam takes over. with Mr. Sunshine, Kevin Woodley, talking about the gear segment with the True TF9 goalie skate, available at the Hockey Shop, source for Sports Surrey, thehockeyshop.com. Cam.
Welcome back to the Hockey Shop Source for Sports. We're down here in Goalie Utopia with Cam Matwiv. It's that time of year. I was going to say it's the spring, all the new stuff is here, but it's actually the summer. And we're only a couple of months. Things are going well all over North America. We're getting closer to being back on the ice. A lot of you are back on the ice already. And for a lot of you, that means it's time for new wheels. And we have a new option for you. For the first time ever in goalie, True has a stock on the shelf retail skate. So not something you have to custom order, have a scan, and wait to get. Something you can walk into the hockey shop in person and walk out of with in these skates in the same day. So my question for you, Cam, as you tease us and don't show us the skate, but just the damn box, how do or can they maintain some of that custom fit and feel that True is known for in a skate that you can just buy off the rack? Have they managed to pull that off?
Yes. Bottom line. So quick background, something that's actually exists in their player market currently already. So upstairs, we have the TF9 and TF7 stock player skate. Again, stock fits that are very thermal molded, activated, and have been available on the wall and have done very well for us and have been quite successful. So now True turns its attention to goalie, which they've done so over the past year by quite a bit, and come out with...
Let's go. Let's go. Thank you. You didn't make me fight for it.
the TF9 goal skate. All right. Lots to cover here, but the big thing itself is, again, we keep using that word thermo activated. So what that all means is when I go heat mold the skate for you, the foams get nice and malleable. The carbon gets nice and malleable. And when I really pull that skate tight, I get that wrap around that foot. So you're creating almost that custom fit that was basically offered in their full scan skates, but it's something that's kind of bringing it down as a derivative down into the stock fit off the wall.
So the heat molding process is a little longer, and the fitting process is going to be a little longer than some of the other skates you have on the wall?
Correct. Your average, you pop a skate in the oven, 5 minutes, 10 minutes on your feet, hey, we're good, see you later. This, it's going to take a little bit longer. It's in the oven for about 10 minutes. It's on your feet for about 20 to 25, even about almost a half an hour to really make sure you get that imprint and full wraparound. Makes a big difference in terms of the fit, and that initial fit when you go try it on shouldn't be 100% perfect because once again, that heat mold needs to be involved.
Does that mean we still get to wrap the saran wrap and
Yes, we still get to wrap the saran wrap. Crucial part to the molding process. Drop those first 3 eyelets so that we're not reefing on them too hard. Allow that wrap still to happen with that saran wrap.
Sweet. Because I think, remember last time, I think we wrapped you in the saran.
We did.
So we get an opportunity to do that again. Okay.
More to come.
That's the boot. That's how it fits. That's how it's designed to sort of still offer at least a custom feel in a skate that's not necessarily custom from top to bottom. What's the next
Correct.
sort of changes?
So there's still some more to add with that customization factor and customability.
Not a word.
For now it is. So the True tongues are actually Velcroed in and very easy to come out. So stock just comes with their flex guard, decent overall tongue. We'll cover most. If you were looking for something different, True actually has a multitude of different replacement tongues that are available. Easy enough to order through us. Myself, I believe I did use the thinner T-guard tongue itself, just not something taking up a whole lot of volume inside. Again, something that's available. You can easily order these aftermarket and pop them in. So again, a nice little customizable feature that you don't normally get at that stock fit skate.
Do you stock them in-house or do you have to bring them in?
Now, this all depends, because you have the ability to also get them embroidered as well. So if that's the case, obviously it's something we got to go to order in. I know we have a few different tongues in stock, but in most cases we do got to order them in.
Okay, so again, another sort of the customizability that True skates were known for, True goalie skates were known for. still some of those options are available in this stock retail skate. Let's move into, if we've done with the boot, let's move into the holder.
Okay. Holder, and then we'll jump back to the boot really quickly after. New shift attack holder. So something, again, completely new when it comes to the goal skates. The shift attack holder exists upstairs in the player world of things, with coming with that new quick release blade mount. Transferring down to goal, quite a difference from that older two-piece skate, which we do have an example here, which Kevin can dig out for us. So part of the feedback that True's gotten, we myself have gotten as well, and I've even experienced, is the pitch of the older two-piece holder was quite a bit different. And it was definitely something to get used to. And a lot of goalies actually had a little bit of a hard time trying to get used to that, and would replace the holder with something different. So True went out, got a bit of an average from what was being replaced with, and came up with that shift attack holder for goal skates. Much more neutral plane to it, not as much as that forward pitch. Obviously, it's something you can profile aftermarket if you need to be pitched a little bit further up on your toes. But now, as a majority of goalies stepping into it, something that might be a little bit more of a familiar feel.
Well, and the biggest difference to me is, I mean, this one, obviously the forward pitch, but also the height of it. And where you've seen the height reduced, looking at the new model and some of the measurements we took before we started recording, the heel. The heel's not as tall, which is going to sort of, again, make it feel a little more neutral, because by lowering the heel, you reduce the forward pitch as well. And so that seems to be the biggest difference. And as you mentioned as well, for the first time ever, and there are some NHL goalies that have had some embarrassing moments as a result of the old setup, the new setup's got a quick release trigger that's going to allow you to interchange blades relatively easily. Not tool free. There's a tool that comes with the skate that you have to use. Just pop it in and pull back the trigger. But it should avoid sort of blades coming out. And then, as we saw in the old model with the screw, sometimes getting that thread in properly became an issue. And I mean, Robin Lehner, it happened to him twice in the same game, I think. That's not going to be an issue with this new holder.
Correct. Also, new steel. So stock 3 mil blade on these guys now. Just again, going more with a common average. However,
makes it lighter.
You do also have different options. So if you still like your 4 mil steel, they do have a quick release 4 mil black carbon coated steel that pops right in. So another great option. All that stuff will be starting to come available, and probably is available now, with more stock coming in. That said, it's giving you that nice flexibility. So again, if you were coming from the older skate, you did like that 4 mil push and feel wise, that's something you can still obtain and get.
Last, well, maybe not last, you might have some more, but definitely noticed a new Lundqvist loop. And it's actually not so much a loop as it is looks like a metal sort of bracket. So it's kind of slick. I like the blue color. It's a nice little call out. It's attractive.
Yes, mounted right straight into the boot itself. Will fit supposedly all bootstrap configurations to be able to slide on through. Something a little bit different, new look to it. It's a nice little refreshing update rather than just having the leather flap in the back, for sure.
I like it. It's got some style points.
It's an aesthetically pleasing skate all around. It looks great on the wall, looks great on your feet, and will transfer over in July to the custom side of things. So all new custom scans for a two-piece skate will now become the TF9 look, and the new shift attack holder.
Will the older, taller, forward-pitched holder be an option moving forward in custom?
As of right now, there still potentially might be the chance to get it, but you'll be less and less to the point of there being no more.
All right, the new TF9 goal skate from True. For the first time ever, you can come in and see Cam at the hockey shop, walk out with it. Well, probably not on your feet, because that's probably not very good for the steel, and there's not carpet from here to your car. Although, Cam, we could probably arrange it. You could actually just have
I will roll out the red carpet for Kevin.
Right to the car, baby. So for the first time ever, you can walk into the store, buy a True skate, walk out of the store with it, take it on the ice right away, and still maintain some of that customizability that you had before. That's the actual word, just so you know.
Quickly before we leave, though, don't forget, you can still get the one piece. One piece does not change.
There you go. If you got any other questions, make sure you give Cam a call. Call him at
604-589-8299, and because we're pressed for time, 1-800-567-7790. Boom. Cut it, print it.
Or check him out at thehockeyshop.com.
Now cut it and print it.
Give you credit. Questions answered. I like it because my sort of curiosity was a true skate where you have that full custom mold, everything going into it. But you can bake this skate. It forms around your foot. There was a lot in there, and the price point, Woody, is good for a skate that isn't full custom. It reflects that.
Yeah, $650 Canadian, and my understanding is it does ship across the border. So customers on both sides, you have to double check with Cam, but I believe customers on both sides can order this. So not just Canadian, like some of the other products are limited in where they can ship to. So you get the savings there, but yeah, like not, it's the secondary price point, which True didn't really have before. And so they've got an entry point there. You can get into a True skate without having to go through the process of the fitting, without having to go through the weight of, having the skate built and having it come back to you. You can walk into the store and walk out with a True goalie skate for the first time. And so that's exciting for the folks at the Hockey Shop and thehockeyshop.com. And thanks, Cam, for walking us through all the details.
And Hutch, you would know this with young Maddie. Like you can buy a skate and with a young kid, boy or girl, and live with that skate for a little bit longer than your true moldable custom skate. You know what I'm talking about?
Not a lot of people want to take the expense or literally lock into a skate that is custom made if you think that you're still growing. Right. And so you probably get a little bit. I have not tried a custom skate with a growing young man, so I couldn't even tell you how long that might last. I'd be curious to know what readers who have think. What I do know is that I've always been shocked over the years by the number of kids I see on the ice at camps wearing True skates, relatively young kids. So there's that desire for it from parents and from kids to try True because, they're a great skate beyond just the fit. And what a smart move now to make them more accessible, both price-wise and more accessible because presumably they're going to last a little bit longer in terms of lifespan for kids and parents. So yeah, great move by them. Look forward to seeing them myself.
They're good-looking wheels too.
They are. They're sharp.
I thought Woody was going to jump in there with some kind of.
Come on, Woody, just get grumpy.
Grumpy.
That can't be grumpy. No, I like that. It's a good looking skate. I like the little metal Lundquist loop, the shift tack angle, the little removable blade. We saw that with Robin Lehner. On the one piece, that screw that went into the back of the blade was problematic for some goalies. Once that thread was gone, it wasn't an easy fix. So yeah, they've solved some issues here and an option for more people than it was before. So that's all positive things. Look at me. Happy, joy.
If only you weren't upset that blue is the wrong shade and clashes with your shirt.
No, I think it actually kind of, it goes with my eyes.
If you have any questions about the new True TF9 skate, give Cam a call. The Hockey Shop, thehockeyshop.com, source for sports Surrey. They can take care of any kind of query that you may have. And if you think that maybe it's too detailed or not significant enough, give it a shot because I just want you to challenge Cam a little bit more. So give them a call. Time to our segue over to our feature interview brought to you by Sensorina VR. And it's Karel Popper, goalie coach with the University of Minnesota, and Jack LaFontaine, who has an incredible story to tell about his journey to claiming the Mike Richter Award for top goaltender in NCAA hockey. And it's through the good folks at Sensorina VR. Hutch.
Finally, I've been talking about the features in the newest release of Sensorina software, but finally I myself actually got to try it this week. Was off on a little training trip, and I sat down with our good friend Eli Wilson of Eli Wilson Goaltending, who we've worked with for many years, and gave him a tour of the software. And I love it. One of the things I love about Sensorina is that they're always evolving the product. And we were sold the moment we tried it, but every time they bring out a new iteration of the software, I'm sold even more. I'm locked in even more. And this time they brought out a whole new interface. So when you first put it on, you've got better access to everything that you want to use in the software. It's got your diagnostics where you sit as a goaltender, sort of front and center as you first put it on. The other one that actually wasn't even mentioned to me is the upgrading process. Has been a little tricky in the past, admittedly. Installing your software in the headset, getting things rolling, that's all been fixed. It's just right done through the Oculus store now. Really easy to work with, but just absolutely love the progress in the software. And I can tell you, yet again, my experience this week was put it on Eli, and he just came to life and wanted to go again. Did see him smash his hand into the wall because he was so involved in making those saves. Incredible piece of software. Darren, what have your impressions been?
So realistic. That's the part that gets me. It's just absolutely realistic. And I'm going to Tokyo for the Olympics to cover water polo. And beach volleyball, water polo and beach volleyball. But I'm going to have to quarantine for a while, so I'm taking it over there to give myself an activity and do a little bit of training and have some fun during the course of. I might try out the fishing game too on the Oculus because my kids do love that. But I just can't believe how realistic it is.
Well, maybe if Canada needs help in goal at the water polo tournament, you'll be so dialed in to catching pucks that just think if you could just, if you can work on your, swimming, maybe you'll be able to do the water polo too.
Treading water is not a strong point by me. And if you've ever watched water polo, the way they jump out of the water, the goaltenders, it's staggering how much
incredible
that they get.
Yeah, incredible.
We'll be cheering. I have to remain somewhat neutral. I will be cheering for the Canadian women's team in the water polo event over there. But no, it's just another tool, and it's the cheat code. But the different things that you discover the more you use the Sensorina program, Hutch, is really intriguing in the sense of, I didn't realize it did that, or I could follow that, or with the upgrades, it's great.
So many things you can do with it. As you say, you discover it. There's modes to tweak every drill that you're using. So there's a new look each time. And then I also encourage people, just check out Sensorina's YouTube page because tips are starting to go up there. We're going to have a few fairly soon as well, tying some of the drills we publish at ingolmag.com to Sensorina drills themselves. But Brian DeCord has been a guest on this podcast in the past, has some fantastic suggestions as well for how you can take Sensorina as it is, but then you can sort of tweak it for your own purposes.
I wonder if it can make you happy. Well, I wonder if there's a segment to improve the mood of Woody.
Just getting on Sensorina. Now you have to dial it down to beginner mode for me to actually make saves, but when I do, it makes me happy.
Tell me about this week's interview brought to you by Sensorina VR with Karel and Jack.
Well, you tease the journey for Jack, starting at the University of Michigan and then actually leaving and going back to the BCHL. But to me, the best part of this interview is as they sort of, once he gets past that and ends up at the University of Minnesota, and the relationship between him and Karel Popper as the goaltending coach there and how they work together. How Jack works. You're going to hear some really fascinating details on sort of the way he prepares to play, the way he works on improving his game. Some really great takeaways. If you've ever been somebody who believes in the power of journals, he takes that to another level. As you'll hear, I don't want to give it all away, but to me, it's that interaction. We've talked about it a lot recently. It feels like, it really isn't just about helping a goalie get better on the ice. That's part of it. And they have the way they work together on the ice, the back and forth of their sessions and goalie world and all the things that they do in the NCAA to improve and how that process works for them is fascinating. But it really is about individuals and getting to know the athlete and the person before you are able to work with helping them become a better goaltender. And so there's elements of all of that in here. Great stuff from Karel, great stuff from Jack. A lot of takeaways that I think probably apply to not just young goalies, but other goalie coaches, maybe even parents who are working in that mentorship role with their kids. And yeah, just a lot of great ideas and a lot of tools you're going to hear. Pay attention. You're going to hear a lot of tools we've talked about before. Things like concentration grids and, just reminders that these elements that we have at ingolmag.com that people talk about in these interviews, these are tools that a lot of the best goalies are using to get better themselves. And so therefore tools that I would suggest, I don't say you have to, but worth trying, much like Sensorina, and worth trying something new to see if it can help you get better.
My favorite part had to be when Jack mentioned watching some of the drills at In Goal Mag. Talked about the Mikey DiPietro drill and specifically how they're presented for individual learning styles. That's pretty cool. I mean, we love to hear that guys are readers, but when they bring it up organically like that, yeah, it really made my day, guys.
It's a heck of a testimonial. And we've chatted a lot about Sensorina VR. And the other part of this conversation is going to be just the reality of what Jack LaFontaine had to go through to get to this stage and the perseverance of being the Mike Richter Award winner. So here is Jack, Karel, and Woody in the feature interview, episode 126, brought to you by Sensorina VR.
Pleased to welcome to the In Goal Radio podcast from the University of Minnesota, Karel Popper, the goaltending coach, Jack LaFontaine, your Mike Richter Award winner as the top goalie in college hockey, draft pick of the Carolina Hurricanes. Obviously, two guys who have had a lot of success together at the University of Minnesota over the past couple of seasons. But before we get to that, before we kind of get to where your paths diverge, I wanted to talk about your paths up to there. So, Jack, for you, because there is some uniqueness there in terms of Michigan being a Canadian guy, going down there playing a bit, and then redshirting. Can you talk about sort of that path to there? And I guess first step, let's go all the way back. Goaltending. How'd you get started?
Yeah, I was always a goalie growing up. I started in a skier league. So what that pretty much was if you were a skiing family in Toronto, you wouldn't have games on the weekend. There'd be like 40 kids and you'd switch around. There were no goalies and you'd play on Thursdays. So your family would be able to wake up early Friday morning and you head to the ski valley. And I would always in my player equipment be in the crease acting as a goalie. And my dad would be furious with me because he thought it was, you got all this player gear on. I don't want to see you stand in a crease. And, it was after that year where I pleaded him. I was like, I don't want to play this. I want to play real hockey. And he was a goalie too, but he was predominantly a football player. And so he kind of was very hesitant to give me the green light to become a goalie. But, I was very fortunate. He got me this like very used Sherwood set of pads. And it was, I don't know if you remember like THR, like a glove and blocker, pretty much like street hockey gear. And he kept on sending me to camps and I'd come home from camps and I had bruises all over my body, but with a big smile. And I keep on telling him like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And, he was actually my first goalie coach. And he, he's very intense. He's very competitive. And I think that's where, again, I get that kind of mean streak from, definitely from him. But ever since then, it's just kind of taken off from there. And I've been very fortunate. I've had a lot of great people come into my life through hockey. I think that's the greatest thing about hockey is you meet all these wonderful people and you stay connected. And whenever you meet someone new, you have the name game with them. Do you know him? Do you know him? Blah, blah, blah. And, I've just been extremely fortunate. I've got to play at two phenomenal universities, play for some great junior programs. And it's kind of been a fairy tale, even though at some points it's felt like a horror film.
Okay, we'll get to the horror film in a minute. I got to be honest, we always ask that of the parents, especially guys who have young kids who have either they're ending their career or they're coaching. Like, are you going to let your kid be a goalie? It's always sort of the fun question at the end. We've had a few where over the years, somebody's told us stories about dad, like absolutely ripping clappers at their head to try and discourage them. But I think that's the first one where we've had somebody go out in street hockey gear and come back black and blue just to make sure they were all in on this. What'd you love about it?
I just loved always on the ice. I didn't have to be on the bench, always on the ice. And B, the best thing when I was growing up would be if we won, everyone would come give me a big hug. And just that, it was like a feeling of happiness, but also a feeling of like relief. It's like, okay, great. We got what we needed to do. We came out here, we won, and everyone's happy. But conversely, growing up, it was always the losses that really stung a little bit. And that's always been a challenge for me, even as a 23-year-old, handling those losses. And, but it's just, the position was always enticing. It was something that when I watched hockey growing up, I was watching Brodeur, I was watching Ryan Miller, I was watching Nabokov, and I was watching all these guys. And just something about the position was just, I just knew it was for me.
Now, those are some guys with some old school stylings a little bit there that you just brought up. Although Ryan Miller obviously evolved his game. I got to see that firsthand here in Vancouver. So let's bring in the coach then. When your pupil's talking about growing up watching all those guys, Karel, let's go to your roots in the game before we get to you guys intersecting at University of Minnesota. Some junior, some NCAA as a player, and then the transition to coach. So what got you started in goaltending? Walk us through that career portion of playing, and then the transition into coaching.
Yeah. So my dad is Czech, and he always loved the game. He loved to watch it, and he thought it was fun. So he got us into hockey. And when I was young, we traveled quite a bit. Right, I lived in 3 different countries and like 6 different states. So fun story. I actually started playing ice hockey in Mexico City. Our coaches, we had 2 Russian coaches. They defected from the Soviet Union and ended up in Mexico City. Luckily, one of them was a goalie guy. And so he's the one who got me going and really worked me hard. My dad said he felt bad for me at times, but at the end of the day, just like Jack, you came off the ice smiling, and you just loved it, right? And then as far as going through and then getting into junior hockey, I mainly played Tier 3, and then I decided to go to Hamline University, and I played there for few years. We got a new coach. I got cut, and I still had a year of college left. So the player part, I played out for the club team, so just because, something to do, something to stay involved. And while I was going to school, I worked for a goalie school here locally. I graduated college, and I got an opportunity to be an interim at Ohio State with the women's program. And so I did that for the remainder of that year. And after that, I went up north to Detroit, worked for a company called Total Package Hockey for a year, did some of the goalie stuff there. That's actually where I met Steve Shields. And that kind of rolls back to Mr. Jack and how we built our relationship a little bit through Steve. At that point, I wasn't happy in Detroit with TPH. Mega Goaltending here in the Twin Cities called and said, hey, are you interested in a job? We're opening a new campus. You can be in charge of the goalies. And then at the same time, the Gophers women's coach called saying he needed a new goalie coach. And so they just kind of worked together. And so I made my way back to Minnesota. And so I did that for a year. And then after that first year, I picked up the men's as well, right? So then now I'm doing both the men and the women's team at the University of Minnesota, and here we are.
Okay, so there's the path. What do you love about the position? You said the big smile on your face despite getting worked over by the Russian coach in Mexico City, and I think there's like a bad joke in there about how the Czech 2 Russians and walk into an ice rink in Mexico City, if it was an ice rink. But where's the passion? And do you still have, if it was there as a player, as a goalie, how do you keep it as a goalie coach?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, as a player, I think for me, I just love to work, right? And, obviously everybody loves the spotlight at times, and you embrace it when you win and you get over it when you lose. But, the game was always just fun. It was fun to watch. It's fun to play. It's fun to learn. And for me as a coach, where I have the most fun is when we get to try new things, right? So Jack and I will go on the ice here and there, and I say, hey, let's try this, and we just try it, right? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes we learn something else. Like, all right, we tried this, but hey, what about this? This looks pretty good. Oh yeah, let's try that, right? And so you just build on different types of things. And for me, that's what I really like about it, right? I like the team atmosphere, and that's why I really like working for the Gophers. And then I like the development side where you come up with new ideas, you try to think outside the box, or you see somebody do something, and then you take an idea from what they did and incorporate it into maybe something else, right? So I think that's part of it, right?
Okay, so I wanted to go to how you guys met, but I got to ask, can you give me an example? Either one of you back and forth on, where you're out there trying one thing and Jack does something different. And the next thing you know, have you come up with things where you set out on the ice to learn a specific way to do something new and end up with something completely unique to you or unique to you too? Without giving away too many secrets, of course. Here I am, like, let's give away all the secrets.
I'll let Jack start. Let's see what he has to say.
I won't get too far into the technical talk, but there's been plenty of times where, and a large reason why Karel and I get along is we're both very, I would almost go as far as saying we're obsessed with the position, and we're so, I think, intrigued and like not trying to reinvent the wheel, but trying to find new ways in which to, find efficiency in the game. And, we're going to talk about, I think later in the podcast, a move Karel and I are still trying to master. It's called the Bob, after Sergei Bobrovsky. And it's something we tried. It would have been before the start of last season. And it's just, it started off as an idea, and then it started to grow in my game. And I found a lot of success with it. And, we do it on the ice in practice, and we take videos of it, and we'd say, well, we like the movement, but we got to change something with the upper body posture. And we just keep on, tweaking this, tweaking that, and trying to find efficiency in it. And, that's just, I think, one of many examples of, how, Karel's not a dictator and saying, this is how we do it. This is what goalies are doing, and this is where you'll find success. It's more so democracy in the sense that, we bounce ideas off of each other, and we find what works for me. And then Karel's great at, even with my partners, what works for me is not going to work for, Justin Close or Jared Moe. And, he's very adaptable. And on top of that, he's got a hunger that is infectious if you're, being coached by him.
Sounds to me, Karel, like this is what I love about this side of my job. I can't teach, I can't coach, but I get to hear all these different ways that kind of come back to the same theme. There's no one way to do this.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you just got to find a solution. If there's a problem, you find a solution, and you work together with your goalies to do that. And like Jack said, what might work for Jack doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for somebody else.
Okay, so how'd you guys? You've introduced I didn't know the Steve Shields part. Obviously, Jack, all I got to do is look at the hockey DB and see the University of Michigan, and then Penticton V's BCHL. That's right in my backyard here in BC. So obviously, a year off there from university. Can you walk me through your path and your words? There was a not very fun stretch by the sound of it there, and ultimately how it leads to you two getting together. Either one of you can take this one away.
Well, I think how it started was as soon as I committed to the University of Minnesota, Shieldsy and I were very close. He was my goalie coach in Michigan, a phenomenal goalie coach. Someone also a lot like Karel in the method that they teach, very experimentative and very open to new ideas. And we were talking, and he was, he kept on dropping this name, Karl Popper. I think he's going to be your goalie coach there. because at that time, the mega goalie coach that was working for the team, Andy Kent, he wasn't going to be returning. So there was that opening. So it just kind of, fate brought us together kind of thing. But that was always in the back of my mind that, I was going to meet this guy, Karel Popper, when I stepped on campus. And of course, we always had that Steve Shields tie because, again, Karel knows Mitch Korn very well. And of course, Mitch Korn is Steve Shields' old goalie coach. So those two ties brought us together. And I think immediately we hit it off right from the get-go.
Now, in terms of, I don't know how much, how do you end up going from, what happened at Michigan that you're not at Michigan? I guess is the politest way I can put it. Pretty blunt. Sorry.
Yeah, no, there's I've answered that question a lot. I got nothing to hide. And, the same with the coach at Michigan, Mel Pearson, he was great to me. My goalie partner at the time, Hayden Levine, he had just done a phenomenal job at taking the team to a Frozen Four. So, he was going to be the guy. And, Coach Mel was great. He was very upfront with me. He was just listen, you have one of the best goalies in the locker room, and I don't see you getting a lot of playing time. So you can either stay here, keep on battling as a number two, or we could, search for other avenues such as junior hockey. And if you do well, then, we could entertain the idea of coming back to Michigan. But it kind of happened where Hayden struggled next year, and then they found Strassman, who again was a very, very good goalie, and they didn't have room. So it kind of opened the whole recruiting process back up. Again, Minnesota, I got very lucky with Minnesota because Matt Robson, the goalie before me, I grew up with him. He was a Toronto boy as well. And Matt forced, he didn't force me, but he gave me the idea of Penticton. And again, he texted me saying, hey, I'm not going to be around next year. I'm going to try to ask Bob Motzko to give you a look. And, I got very lucky. Bob was phenomenal in the recruiting process, and everything about Minnesota, it just felt like home right away. There was a gut feeling, and, it's probably the best decision I've made up to this point in my life.
How tough is that mentally to take that? Because I'm guessing no matter how you slice it, that had to feel like a step back to be going to junior A after being in the NCAA. How did you process that and get to the point where you could look at it as an opportunity as opposed to dwelling on having to leave NCAA to go back for that year?
I describe it as a bad heartbreak, it's, you're getting dumped by your girlfriend almost. But, the great thing about I'm not going to say the great thing, but one of the silver linings of not playing was I had so much time to work with Shieldsy, before the games, after practices, early in the mornings, because I wasn't playing. And, Shieldsy and I really developed my game and, found a good, strong foundation. So at the end of those 2 years at Michigan, I was actually excited to, go back to juniors and to finally start playing games and to actually put these new skills to the test. The hardest part about going back to junior hockey was just the social aspect of it. I was going to be leaving all my friends. I was going to be leaving my girlfriend at the time. For me, that was the toughest barrier to handle. Now, saying that in hindsight, it was the right decision. Just because it was tough mentally doesn't mean it's a wrong decision. But for me, Penticton was a phenomenal year. I got to play over 50 games. I met a great coach in Fred Harbinson, just a really, really good human being. And, he stuck with me through some tough times. And for that, I'm eternally grateful for that opportunity he gave me. And, that year kind of propelled me to Minnesota.
Okay, so we've heard from Steve Shields, Karel Popper. Get to know that name. You're being recruited now out of the BCHL by other teams as you're going to transfer away from Michigan. Karel, I'm looking at where these all line up, and in some sites you're still listed as though on the women's side. Were you involved in that process at all? And Jack, on your side, how many different opportunities were there?
I don't know if Jack knows this, but as soon as Jack decided, or they decided they weren't going back to Michigan, he called me and he said, "Hey, Jack's available. You want him?" And I said, "Okay." And so I called the current goalie coach, Andy Kent, and I said, "Hey, tell Bob and Garrett that Jack's available and this is a guy you want to look at." And I left it there because at the time I was not their goalie coach. So that was, I guess, my role in that was just giving the name that Steve gave me, and that was it.
Okay, Jack, what influences this decision? You said Minnesota just felt right. How much of it was like, what were the other options, and how much of it was knowing he was there, even if it wasn't maybe directly at first?
Well, I think there was a lot of hesitation on other teams. I think at that point in my career, a lot of people looked at me as almost broken goods, which I understand. That you have this kid that a lot of people viewed as taking a step back, going back to junior hockey. And, I had, I think 3 or 4 other college offers. I wasn't just going to settle for, something just to have a college scholarship. So I wanted to go to a place where not only I was going to get everything on the hockey side, but I wanted to go back to a good school, finish my degree, and be in a place where I had a chance to win a college national championship. So the interesting thing about Minnesota was the keys to the castle weren't given to me right away. So it was kind of a handshake deal where, hey, like you still got to prove that you can be a number 1 goalie at the college level, whereas other schools were saying you're going to be our guy right off the bat. And again, I've never been one to shy away from competition, but I think Minnesota, again, they had the great history. They have a new coach in Bob Motzko. And on top of that, the education there is top tier. So I was prepared to go in. I was prepared to fight for that job. And it just so happened I had Karel in my corner, helping me propel me to that position.
All right. So I wanted to ask about the schooling too. I wasn't sure where we were going to do this, but you mentioned the great education, like journalism. What led to that as a major? Obviously, hockey's the primary goal here, drafted by the Carolina Hurricanes. But does it help you? I mean, on a day-to-day, there's a media presence there at the University of Minnesota. You've been on the big stage. Does it help sort of understanding our side of things? Can you help us get better at our jobs with better questions?
Yeah, I mean, I've taken classes in journalism. I mean, I graduated with a more broad degree in English, but I've flirted with journalism a lot. But I think on like a bigger scale, my English degree it's just a part of who I am. It's my personality. I'm someone that loves to read, loves to write. I'm someone that if I'm going to learn, if I'm going to like retain information, I need to either read it or need to write it down. And that's just kind of how I not only memorize, techniques or, little mental aspects, but it's also a way in which it gives me like a little bit more confidence. I'm a big believer in the idea that if you write it, you can do it. So as cliche as that sounds, I have all these little notebooks. I have these journals that are all appointed to a specific objective. So I have a drill book where every drill that I've done and then I've liked, I've written that drill down, written the keys to that drill. And then I have another book, which is like my mental handbook. So that book is supposed to, keep track of my pregame and postgame emotions and feelings and thoughts. And then I could go on and on about the journals and handbooks. And, for me, it's not overwhelming at all. It's just who I am. It's, I'm very meticulous. I'm very organized. And, that's a way in which, if I need to find success as a goalie, that's a large part in it.
So then are the notebooks exclusive to hockey and goaltending, or do you use them in other aspects of life?
Only hockey and goaltending.
Okay, so you gave us 2. Karel mentioned these notebooks. He says they might be a little hard to read to the outsider. There's a personal element of handwriting involved.
I mean, Karel can't read them because they're written in cursive, and I always I give him a little bit of flack because I was like, how can you not read cursive? You should be the one writing in cursive, and I should be printing. But as an English major, again, my dad was an English major, and he wrote in cursive, and again, from a young age, he's like, hey, you're gonna do this. This is like a dying art, and yeah, it's stuck with me. Yeah.
Okay, so it's like just regular old cursive. It's not like I mean, you learn as a reporter how to take sort of like there's specific ways, almost like to write. I mean, nobody could read my writing, frankly, but then there's guys that actually do shorthand that it just blows me away how fast they can reword it. This is just straight out cursive.
It's a straight out cursive, but I think I've made up a couple letters in the cursive alphabet. So that's probably where Karel's saying that he can't read it, which makes a lot of sense. But yeah, that's I just do it because it's faster, right? I'm not going to print. I'm going to do cursive, and it's going to be faster for me.
Okay, so do you guys share some of the like? Do you share the notes with Karel? I mean, the ones he can read. Do you guys go over this? And Karel, like, it actually reminds me. You guys have mentioned Mitch Korn. Like, one of the thoughts that he had when I've had this discussion with him and with Braden Holtby. First going to Washington and hearing about all these things that Braden liked to do and making sure that they were constructive. When you were first introduced to the notebooks as a coach, Karel, like, what were the thoughts on this?
I've always found it a good idea, and I think that for certain goalies, it's beneficial, and for others, it's just like you said, it's tedious. It's another task to do. So the mindset of doing that, it's specific to goaltenders, but I know for Jack's notes and stuff. And a lot of the stuff we do, it's like he said, it's not a dictatorship. It's more of a democracy. You want to share it with me, I'll be happy to sit down with you, talk about it, check it out, and we can go from there. But I never, at least I don't think so. I've never forced him to be like, hey, let me see your thoughts, your notes. What are you feeling? If he wants to share, I'm here for him. If he doesn't, that's fine.
You mentioned the drill book. You mentioned the mental, like what your emotions are before and after a game. Like, do you have one for technique, or is that part of the drill book? How, like, I'm trying to, without poking, I'm doing what Karel just said he won't do. I'm trying to dig as deep as I can to get more information on how many books there are and what all the different aspects. I want to know how you've broken down life as a goaltender into these individual books. I think there are probably a lot of young goalies that would find that fascinating as they try and compartmentalize different aspects of the game themselves.
Well, I mean, the mental handbook, I won't even share that with like my future wife. Like, that will be something that I will forever hold dear to myself. That's personal, and the whole point of the handbook is to be honest and truthful with yourself, right? So that's something where I can go back to a certain date and I can understand that, okay, like on this certain date, this is how I was feeling. And that you compare and contrast those emotions. But the drill book I have shared with Karel because I think it is interesting, because, I have Karl Popper's drills in there. I have Steve Shields' drills in there. I have, all the goalie coaches I've ever worked with are all in there. So it's a nice little repertoire of drills where, if I need to go back and I need to focus on, stick saves, or if I need to focus on tracking, I have a whole history of drills that I can go back to. But on top of that, while they are like literal pictures of the drills, they're underneath those pictures are like the keys to find success in that drill. And that's where I think the importance of that book is, because it reinforces what I've learned that day. So if I do a cool drill with Karel, I'll go home, do the drill, and then I'll write down, okay, what was Karel talking today about, like my stick? Like, what do I need to do with my elbow? What do I need to do with my wrist? And, when I write things, again, that's just a way in which I learn.
I was going to say, everybody learns differently, right? It's actually one of the reasons at InGoal, like, we could just, when we have like the little videos or the pro reads, we could just slap the video on the website and say, here you go, here's what they said. But we try and write it out as well. I mean, I learned goaltending from being an editor for Ian Clark's old Goalie News publication. And his articles would be thousands and thousands of words. And not everybody wanted to sit through and read them. But if you did read them, you understood why, and as opposed to just do it. You understood why you were doing it this way. And so, like you said, everybody learns differently. And I find it fascinating that for you, that's part of the process.
100%. And like, that's why I love, like, on Instagram, like for InGoal, the most recent one I've looked at is the Michael DiPietro loose puck one, where he's got the 3 pucks and he's power sliding and he's working on like not opening up, staying contained, and like grabbing those loose pucks. So you watch the drill and then you're thinking, okay, why? What's the purpose of this? And then you read about it. You're like, okay, this makes sense. What situations do we use this in? This, and this. What are the keys to this? This, and this. So there's always like a purpose for why not only you're watching a video, but for why you would want to do that yourself.
Love it. I love it. And we've seen other guys too. Like I'm, quick look back at. I was searching on Engel because I was trying to remember who it was. Jake Allen used to keep a journal about the emotion side of things, so that he could go back and refer to what he was thinking when he was playing well, when things were not necessarily going well later on. And the other one was I was trying to think of Thatcher Demko. Used to watch NHL games and take notes on goalies playing, how they played certain situations, almost like a study book that he kept notes on other goalies. Is there anything like that? Do you guys, Karel, you must take notes on how other goalies, it's how we learn, right? Watching how other goalies do things and trying to pick up on ways that might work for your goalies.
Yeah, I'd say I watch a decent amount of hockey. And
yeah, right. Like at all the games you watch.
And so one of the things that I do, for me, like Jack likes to write things down. I like to watch and then save what I watch, right? So if there's something that I like, it's saved somehow, some way, right? So for example, if I'm watching a game and I notice this goalie's doing, whatever it is that he's doing, I'll screen record it. I'll keep it. I'll watch it. I'll look for it again, and then maybe look for it in a different goalie that might have a similar style, or even just a completely different goalie. And then that's how essentially that's kind of how I learn, and how I try to stay creative with Jack is, okay, what are these goalies doing, and what are the tendencies, and how is this goalie playing different than this one and then this one, but they're ending up with the same result, right? And for that, it's video. Like I just watch everything and anything I can get my hands on, and then just keep what I like.
Okay, so now I want to know how you two guys built the relationship that works so well, because Karel, you come from that side, and I guess part of the question would be, how do you take how Jack thinks about the game and interprets the game and likes to process the game with the journals and with writing it down, and blend that with, for example, a video review session? We have the pro reads at Engel, guys share their save selection, but what's it like in that coach goalie relationship when you guys are reviewing video, knowing how you like to think, how he likes to think? How'd you guys build the relationship that clearly is so strong?
Well, I think on just we're just two human beings, right? So before we even, I've had plenty of conversations with Karel that aren't even like hockey related. And I can point 3 out where they were just, talking about what's going on outside of hockey, what's going on with school, family, and so on and so forth. And I think for me, I really appreciate a coach that takes the time to like get to know the athlete. And conversely, I'm also curious about my coach. Like I want to know what my coach, how he grew up, what was his path, things he likes to do, so on and so forth. And the one thing I've always appreciated about Karel is he's, a younger guy, but he's always been super hungry. And like I said, like that's infectious for me. So if I see my goalie coach outworking me, then that's a huge issue. You know what I mean? So I just love Karel's work ethic. And on top of that, just his like creativity with these goalie drills. There's always a drill I'll find every other week, and I'll be like, wow, I didn't even think of that. And he's always trying to find new ways to hammer down foundation keys and whatnot.
Karel, how did it start for you? Like, what was your first approach? As much as we're talking now about drills and things like that, we've had this discussion at Ingol recently, a lot, goalies and goalie coaches, about building that relationship with the person as much as with the athlete out of the gate.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it, right? I think that if you want to coach someone, especially an elite level athlete, is you really have to know who they are, how they think, how they're feeling. Like a funny story, and Jack knows this because we've shared this. There'll be times where the game is starting, he's in the crease, and you can just sense it. You're like, oh, Jack's gonna struggle right now, but he'll either figure it out or he won't. But and I think that does have to do with the person and getting to know him, his mannerism, what he looks like on a good day, what he looks like on a bad day, like not just on the ice, but off the ice too. When he walks into the rink, right? Is he walking with confidence? Is there something on his mind, right? Is he, struggling outside of the rink? Why? Right. So just knowing a lot of different facets of your goaltender, I think that helps quite a bit, because from there you just take off, right? Once you really get to know your goalie and the person, right? Not even the goalie, just the person, then everything seems to become a little easier because they trust you a little more now because you care about them, not them, the goalie, but Jack LaFontaine, the person, right? And I think that that's huge in anything, right? Whether Jack is first round draft pick and he's the best goalie in the world right now, or he's a Bantam seat goalie, it doesn't matter, right? It's just dealing with the person, and less the goaltender.
Now, how did that process, especially coming off a junior and coming off of that experience of being at Michigan and then back and up to Minnesota, getting to know him, the mental side of the game, how did that evolve? Like, what we can look at the technical, we can talk about the bob, we can talk about always looking for new drills and new ways to get better between the ice, or between the pipes. What about between the ears? What have you guys focused on? Was there strengths coming in? Were there things you needed to adjust in terms of your approach, Jack or Karel? Your thoughts on that and building that relationship to get to here?
Yeah, I mean, I think how it started to me is just like the art of observation. I just watched Jack. Just like there wasn't much to talk about. I just watch him on the ice, off the ice, see what he's doing, and I don't know if Jack wants to share it, but I think where it really started is we had one conversation in the coach's locker room. I think it was after Niagara. So the way it worked is I wasn't there the first weekend. I wasn't hired yet. And then I came in the second weekend. We played Niagara, and I think another week passed. And again, it was just observing and seeing who these kids are. I don't know any of them. I just know about them. And then we had a little chat and got real. And that was it.
Yeah, I mean, that's I think the strength of Karel, not to pump his tires too much, but he has to be one of the most observant human beings I think I've ever met. There was two conversations. It was after the Niagara series, and then it was after the Penn State series. It was just like, well, how did you feel at this certain point of the game? And if, I'd say, well, I was gripping the stick. I was a little tight, breathing got shallow. He's like, yeah, I know. I could see that. And I was like, how the hell can you see, like he's like a mind reader sometimes with that. And when you have a coach that kind of understands and can see when you're confident, when you're not confident, when you're having a rough patch, it just makes it so much easier because the 50% of the conversation is done. You don't need to explain. You don't need to help the coach understand. That's I think why we get along so well, is because I don't have to spend all this time explaining myself to Karel. He really understands me, and again, he always knows when to get on me a little bit, and other times he knows when to leave me alone. And that first year it was a little bit trial by error, and then we found ways in which we can find success, and preparing for those games on the weekend and finding ways how I was not only going to feel confident and prepared, but just emotionally and mentally stable for what was to come on Friday and Saturday.
So you're gripping the stick in those moments, just to use your words, gripping the stick. You use the word shallow breathing. So you can, you've obviously got tools to deal with those pressure tense moments. Karel, you observe that. Are you offering solutions, or are you just guys talking it through? Like you said, there are techniques to help you get through those moments, or is it sometimes just a matter of being able to recognize them and talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, it all depends, really. I mean, sometimes they just got to figure it out themselves. and you're there for support. And then sometimes, if it becomes an issue, that's where you have to step in, right, and say, okay, like, Jack, we know this is going on. Let's walk through it. Let's talk about it and find solutions, right? So I do think that I do have ways of finding solutions, or like providing solutions, and obviously it's something that they have to take it or leave it, right? Quick example, like just the mental side of the game or the emotional side of the game. Like, there was times as I was getting to know these guys, I would give Jack, Justin, and Jared a one sheeter of some sort, right? That says this, or that, right? On maybe it was an emotional part of the game or mental or whatever. And maybe Jack would like it, maybe he wouldn't, right? Maybe Jared would like it, maybe he wouldn't. And it's just providing some sort of resource. And if they want to use it, fine, use it. If you don't, you're not going to hurt my feelings. And I think that's kind of how I looked at it is, I'll help you. I'm here for you if you want me to. And if you're not ready, I'll be here waiting for you. So
help me out with one sheeter. What you mean by a one sheeter? Just like a list of sort of some ideas that they can help deal with a certain situation?
Yeah, I don't know. Jack, you want to explain it better?
Yeah, I mean, I still got. Yeah, it's just like I remember the mental warrior handout you gave me, Karel. Yeah, so that was again his one sheeter, but that's something that really clicked with me. It was a list of Karel, help me out with the word. You used a specific word. It'll come to me. But anyways, like this one sheet strung true with me. It hit home, and I still have it taped on my dry stall. And it's just something where I look at, and I read it every time before I'm getting changed to go to to go into the locker room. And that's just one of many examples where Karel gives the resources, and if it works, it doesn't. If it if it strings true with you, all the more power to you. But Karel has endless archives of resources. I don't know where he gets them from, but there's always one that some hits home, and it's just perfect for the scenario at hand.
So, quick question: does he handwrite them, or are they typed out?
They're typed out, and I rewrite them myself, and I post them post them myself.
I was gonna say, I guess a few of them have ended up in the journal. That's awesome. So it sounds to me, Karel, like, and both of you guys, it sounds like much like coaching on the ice. These are tools in a toolbox. Everybody has the opportunity to try them, take the ones that work, and leave the ones that don't.
Yep.
Okay, so now I want to ask about Goalies World, because I didn't even know there was such a thing other than Goalies World. Is actually, when I hear Goalies World, two things jump to mind. One, the old magazine, which is kind of one of the reasons we got our start, sort of trying to follow where they left off when they stopped producing. And two, Bauer has like a Goalies World like convention type thing that everybody gets to go to. So what is Goalies World in NCAA hockey at the University of Michigan? Explain it to me.
University of Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. See, that's where the note to editor fixed Kevin's University of Minnesota, of course.
And it's Goalie World, singular. But anyways, I got the term at Ohio State. So the head coach there came from Minnesota, and one day she's like, "All right, you got Goalie World," and I was like, "All right." And so that's how I got it. And, I don't know if that's a thing that's everywhere or it's just a Minnesota thing. I have no idea. But we call it Goalie World, and that's just goalie practice before team practice.
And so it's just all three goalies. Well, usually I would guess, and you probably rotate depending on who's got what duties in practice that day. But, to take it to the drill example, you've got the drill book, Jack, which, like, what part of goalie world do you like the most? Do you get complicated with a call, or them like drills with multiple moving parts trying to do game situation? Or Jack, do you prefer the stuff that's a little more, foundation and detail based, sort of slower moving, but, more focused on details? Because I'm guessing there's probably, as a coach, Karel, you're probably blending all different aspects into these sessions. And how long are they?
Well, usually the sessions are about 30 minutes, and they're most of the time all off ice. Before we would hop on a practice, say 30 to 45 minutes early, Karel would take us. Sometimes it's hip mobility, sometimes it's hand-eye coordination. Other times, he'll bring us in the video room and he'll have concentration grids for us. Some video maybe just to prime us. They're just little ways in which Karel finds to prepare us for practice, prepare us for the upcoming opponent, and again, giving us little tools, if we like them or not, to keep on using them daily. So the concentration grids are something I really like to do. That was introduced. That would have been the fall of my first years ago and then more daily, we'll do like a lot of hand-eye coordination, whether we're focusing on peripheral vision, whether it's juggling. We even have a reaction board now that was made for us. So they're just little things which prime us for practice and just get the blood pumping and get the gears in our brain moving.
Okay, so independent of the on-ice session. For some reason, I had it in my mind that it was part of when you guys headed on the ice.
Yeah, no, it's usually all off ice.
And again, I'm guessing just a lot of different things where they try it. And Jack, there'll probably be elements that you're doing 10 years from now still. And probably ones that different people will pick on different things. Any favorites, Karel, over the years that you've introduced to them that are staples, like every guy gets this one?
Yeah, I got this the 5 dot one, Jack. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
that's one of my favorites. I don't know how else to explain it. It's 5 dots, and you do certain patterns, and it's just like kind of almost like a shoulder mobility, hand speed type drill that you just gotta figure it out.
Like 5 dots on a board out in front of you, kind of thing?
Just like 1, 2, 1 in the middle, 2 down low. And you just got to move your hands to whatever pattern you're building. And it's just like part of it too, for me, the reason I like it is because when goalies start to try and do things really fast, they tense up. So it gives you a way to practice just kind of relaxing, breathing, being calm while trying to be fast all at the same time, just with your hands.
Tension is the enemy of goaltending.
There you go. So that's, like Jack said, at the end of the day, my goal is to prepare these guys for what's next in their hockey careers. So giving them new ideas, new ways of doing things. And like I said before, you either like it or you don't, and you take it or you leave it. And so we do that. And then we hop on the ice, do a little goalie time, and then get to practice.
Now, how do you balance, Jack? This one's for you. How do you balance like the goal? You got goalie world. I got it right that time. Off the ice, I've figured it out. I'm a little slow on the uptake here, guys. Then you get onto the ice. You get your time where it's just goalie specific, I would imagine. And then your time where you're part of the team drills. I'm guessing most goalies like the part that's goalie specific. How do you blend those times where it's all about you and your technique and your craft and getting better, with also being a good teammate when it's time for drills that, I know team practice, we talk about it a lot. It's not always goalie friendly.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a team game, like you said, right? So, while a lot of the times goalies are very neurotic about, players coming into too close or shooting it high during warm-up drills, you kind of have to remind yourself that this is a team game and they're trying to get something out of practice too. So if you got a 2-on-0 coming in, you tell yourself two things. A, what does success look like in this drill? Maybe I want to beat that first pass on my feet. And then after that, I'm just going to battle. And then B, you have to think, okay, well, maybe we had a tough weekend. Maybe some guys are losing their confidence and, coach wants to see those guys put the puck in the net. So a thing Karel always tells us, especially on a Monday, after a weekend, he says, no easy goals, make these guys earn it, because Mondays are always skill days. So we'll do like a D forward split. And when you're in the forward zone, those aren't the friendliest goalie drills, but you got to kind of remind yourself that this is also for the players that are helping you during those Fridays and Saturdays too. So, it's a challenge to yourself where you're going to challenge your teammates, that you're not going to give them any freebies, and it just raises everyone's compete level on the ice.
Karel, as a coach, how important is that? Not just in terms of your guys embracing those practice or those portions of practice, as Jack said, what does success look like in this drill? But how often do you find as a coach where the goalies that compete and battle in those drills tend to be the ones that compete and battle the best once the puck drops as well? Like, there translation and correlation from the drills that may not be goalie friendly to, situations in a game that aren't always goalie friendly.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. I think that there is a lot of correlation to your willingness to battle through whatever might come at you. If you do it in practice, you're going to do it in a game, right? If you quit in practice, at some point, you're going to quit in the game.
We mentioned the Bob, and we said we'd come back to it. And I wasn't sure, was this something we wanted to do on the podcast, or if there was a chance to look over the videos together, because Karel sent me some. But is that the best example you can think of, Jack, that you mentioned, like just that learning together environment? And how's it evolved in your game? You said you're still working on it.
I would say up to date, that's the best example of, Karel bringing new things to my attention, and, trying to find new ways to make my game more efficient. That movement, the Bob, I love it on 2-on-1s. That's something where, it's usually utilized on a rush, and Bobrovsky does it all the time, hence why we call it the Bob. But I would get into arguments with my goalie partner, Jared Moe, last season. He said, I don't really like it. I was like, all right, like, I love it. Like, and, I could execute it. And, he was a guy that would just rather, use a lateral release or a T push. But again, that just goes back to, no two goalies are alike. There's a million ways to keep the puck out of the net. But the Bob specifically, I think it's a really cool move. And last year it helped me out a ton, especially on 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s. It's a way to, maintain my feet and not open up my toes. Whereas a T push, you got to open up and rotate. And the Bob is a way in which you can kind of not only hold your edges, but if there's a pass back, you can push back.
Karel, give me your keys to that movement. Like, as you guys have gone through this, what do you see as the keys specifically that work well for Jack?
Yeah, I mean, the goal of what we were trying to do was, one, hold our edges, right? Stay on your feet for as long as you can. Two, have the ability to arrive like square, like Jack said, not open, right? Try to arrive toes to the puck, hands to the puck, stick, everything, your body. And then also we wanted a way to cut back, right? So if a guy passes it back right away, or where he cuts, right? Can we move back on our feet as well, right? So not only are we going there on our feet, but we're going to try and come back on our feet as well. And so I guess, some of the keys were just, we played around with flow and momentum. So on a rush, that backwards flow, using that momentum. We talked about going through our anchor, right? The anchor is kind of like the middle of the crease, right? Going through our anchor in order to kind of get there. And then just, I think the last one was, just managing the depth too, is making sure we don't get caught too far back. And that's where the anchor comes into play, because the anchor allowed you to not open up, but also maintain your depth, versus if you rotate too much, you go straight to your post. Now you lose all your depth.
Okay. And actually, no, I should have said this because you sent me video, got a chance to look. Describe it. Like, describe it because everybody, this is audio and I'm an idiot and I
Right.
didn't ask you to describe it.
Yeah.
People are like, this sounds fascinating. If only that stupid host would have asked him to tell us what it was.
I'll let Jack.
No, the way you described it was poetry in motion. I'll let you take this one.
Oh, wow. So how would you describe it? Yeah. So the way we looked at it was I just explained. And so what a goalie does is he creates, that backwards motion towards the anchor of the crease, which is the middle, with a C cut or, ideally with a C cut. And from there, his upper body starts to face the puck and his lower body follows. And now instead of doing a really long shuffle, you're only doing a regular shuffle, right? Because you've already found your center, now you can maintain your whole body together to put yourself in position. I don't know if that helps. Anything to add,
so
Jack?
I was just going to ask, like, one thing of that C cut, like the reverse C cut as you're flowing backwards, it takes you into the middle. Important, I guess, like it puts you on angle and it becomes a bit of a momentum build. Those would be, from an outsider observing it, those would be sort of the two observations. I'm guessing though that like a lot of guys will get low and wide with that C cut and it takes them to the ice. Is the key that when you're performing this motion, when I watch the video, you keep your feet under you in this case.
100%. And again, that goes back to the purpose of the move. And that's to keep your edges under you. The most ideal time to use it would be on a 2-on-1. So, instead of sliding or using like a long shuffle, you either lose your edges on a slide or on a shuffle, you widen out, and then that pretty much cancels out the option for a double backdoor if he's going to push it back. And the great thing about the bob too is it gives me the opportunity on the first pass to open up my glove and give the puck a target immediately. So a lot of times on a T-push rotation, before you're actually going, you have to come back and then move. So you're using the momentum of the pivot to first go away from your target and then to the target. The thing about the bob is your feet are always under you. And as soon as you make that decision to push over, your glove and your eyes and your stick are going to give that puck a target immediately. So let's say it's a quick one-timer. That's fine. My feet are under me. I can just drop right down into a butterfly. Or if you want to pass it back, that's fine. My feet are under me. So as a whole, the move gave me like a lot of confidence on these high scoring situations to not only trust my edges, but to just feel like more efficient instead of just sliding over and waiting for a shot or being behind the play.
And by keeping the stance somewhat narrow and your feet underneath you as you build that sort of top-down angle with that rotation, like what I see is, like you said, you're squared up early. You're arriving there sort of set and square and on top of the play, as opposed to, like you said, whether it's a T-push or even if you were to widen out and make that reverse C-cut, a lot of guys the tendency can be to leave the upper body behind. It sounds like one of your keys is getting there in one piece with, as you said, gloves presented and ready to go.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. Any other great like insights or giveaways that you want to give to us? Like, we're just like taking notes here. Like, I'm creating Kevin Woodley's notebook based on you guys describing some of the things you've come up with to help Jack rise to this level of Mike Richter Award winner.
Yeah, I mean, like along with that move, we also played around with what he said, presenting the puck a target, right? So actually opening up your blocker to the puck or your glove to the puck, which allows it to just kind of be more efficient, be more stable, be ready. So when you actually get there, or as you're arriving, your hands are already in a position to make a save.
I'm going to transition that one, Jack, into gear, because presenting your gloves and moving in a way that you keep them presented rather than getting lazy with them requires gloves that present well. Like, you guys both gear guys? Are you gear geeks? Are you gear guys? Like, how do you talk gear as part of this? Because I'll be honest, I had this conversation just recently with with Jeff Glass as he's transitioning into coaching. And he hadn't been a guy that thought a lot about it. And yet now as he's coaching, like how your gear performs affects how you play. Like it's important to have, the anecdote I used with him was we don't all have to be Ichiro Suzuki keeping our wooden bats in, temperature and controlled humidors before we get to the plate. But it's probably good to know how it works with and for your game, no?
Yeah, I mean that's Carl's. He probably won't admit it, but I think he's a gear geek like me. Like again, there's there's certain specs on my pad that like I love, like I need, and I'll tweak year to year. But the one thing I'm very peculiar about is my glove. So I had this one glove growing up. It was my minor midget year for Don Mills, and probably the best glove I've ever worn. So I pleaded CCM, like what's the closest thing to that? And they were kind enough to kind of recreate that glove into the Axis model. And I don't know, this glove was so old that like the 590, 580, and 600 break wasn't even a thing at the time. So they were like, there's no specs on this thing. Like this is kind of like an outcast piece of equipment, but they recreated it. And ever since, it just it's been my glove. Like it just feels like the original one.
So we're going to have a Jack LaFontaine model is what you're telling me.
I hope so. Yeah. I don't know.
Now CCM's going to be pissed at me because everyone's going to be asking for the LaFontaine spec. But you've also become a bit of a guinea pig. As they've transitioned, they've had certain guys, a couple in Europe, yourself, David Riddick, we saw, wearing prototypes for next year's model. What's it like to be part of that process and be a guy who's providing feedback on new lines and new innovations?
Well, it's really cool. And, the gear they have coming out, it's amazing. Like I was a huge fan of the first line of Axis. And then after that, they took that first series and they made it even better, which I thought was impossible. And, I don't want to give too much away because I don't think they'd appreciate that. But
no, I'd have to hit the beat button on a lot of it if you did. So it's okay.
Yeah. But I mean, some of the specs they have coming out are just total game changers. And obviously I'm wearing a prototype right now and I'm in love with it. It's just, for me, I like a stiffer pad with a more flexible boot. And they've done that with this pad. And, obviously they have the speed skin, but they got another secret that I guess I can't mention. But it's an awesome pad. And, the guys at CCM, they're awesome. Great guys, and they love the feedback. And, I just love working with them for, I think it's been about 4 years since my sophomore season at Michigan.
So, you right back to those days where your dad made you go out and basically glorified street hockey gloves to see how bruised you could get and whether you still wanted to play, to helping build the next generation of product. Like, have you always been a gear geek?
Honestly, no. It was Steve Shields that pretty much, put it lightly, to give my head a shake. Like, you're not gonna, why are you not gonna take a liking to gear? It's got to feel a part of you. And ever since then, he's been like, he used to give me like certain gloves. He used to give me like different paddle lengths. He used to, tell me how to wear the glove, like whether to wear it loose, whether to wear it tight. Like he would just give me all these options and these avenues until like I found something that just felt right for me. That freshman year at Michigan, that was my first year where I actually got like a custom set of pads. Usually I just, buy something like off the shelf at Duke's Source for Sports, and I'd put like pad skins on it. And like, again, like Shieldsy would like shake his head. He'd be like, are you out of your damn mind? Like, you can't do this anymore. Like, this is real deal. So I started off my freshman year in Vaughn pads, and then halfway through the year I ordered a pair of CCMs just because they were better tailored to my game and better tailored to my body.
Okay, so you mentioned having some little specs that you have to keep. Now, I'm trying to remember. I was actually, probably saw me frantically Googling. still got leather straps on there. Is that one of the old school ones you got to keep that you feel like you need those on there?
I love the leather straps. I do the Lundqvist loop.
Okay.
So you put the leather strap, like it's not on the bottom of your skate. It's like actually on the back of your ankle. And I was also, they call these Hulk straps. So they're not they're not toe strings. They're like elastic Velcros that you wrap around your skate. And so it gives you like more ankle mobility, especially in the RVH. And again, like I like a more flexible boot. Like I don't want something where like my ankle feels locked in. I'm someone that like wants the pad sitting high and want like a lot of mobility for my skate to move around.
Okay. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. Marc-Andre Fleury's still got metal buckles and leather straps. It's just always funny to me in this era where we're trying to cut weight so much that, like, you know, a set of leather straps and metal buckles can weigh as much as the rest of the pad, for crying out loud.
Exactly.
So, Karel, you got to keep an eye on him with the gear, or are you trying to learn from him as he goes?
I mean, I think he's pretty self-sufficient. As far as my role in that, I just, as long as it works, if it works, you like it, good, we're there. But you know, I do ask questions, you know, regarding, you know, maybe new things on the pad and what it looks like, what it feels like. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? So I ask questions, but I don't know how much of a nerd I am with the goalie gear, but apparently
well, you gotta have some knowledge, because I mean, working with kids at Mega, like that becomes a part of the conversation as well, right? Helping them find their game by finding the right gear.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, you know, kids have to you got to make sure that they're wearing the right things, right paddle length, and you know, a glove you can close, and especially for little kids, and you know, pads are, you know, the right size and that sort of stuff. So
okay, guys, I just looked down to see how long we've been talking. It's way longer than I promised, which I know I'm kind of famous for, so I apologize. I do have one last one, because it wouldn't be an In-Goal podcast without one last question. I gotta say though, like, between the technique and the get, like, there are so many little threads that I want to keep pulling on here, so you're going to regret giving me your emails pretty soon, because I'll be following up here and asking, especially seeing how we have a guy who's taking journalism. I'm practically going to make Jack write stories for me at this point. So
I'll have an internship by next summer.
You just got to hit block. Feel free to hit block on my number anytime, Jack. Next year, how excited are you for next year coming off this one? And that decision could have turned pro. You've had quite a path to development to here. Was there any thought towards that, and what made you want to come back and finish it off at the University of Minnesota?
Well, I mean, personally for me, I've only been a college starter for a year and a half. So that played a large role in it. You know, I've always been someone to trust my gut, and my gut was telling me that there's no such thing as being overprepared. And for me, I knew that if I have Karel in my corner, that I can take another large jump in my development. Now, saying that, I'm not going to, you know, rely on Karel for that. There has to be a lot of self-initiative there. But, you know, mentally and emotionally, I'm in a place where not only am I fortunate enough to, you know, play a lot of games at the Division I level, but I have a goalie coach that is right there with me, that's, you know, working with me every day, and that's in my corner fighting for me. But, you know, I just trusted my gut. My gut was telling me to stay for another year. You know, a lot of the guys that have made that jump to pro, whether it was, you know, Jeremy Swayman, even Spencer Knight, you know, they had a ton more games than I have had up to this point in my college career. And I just felt like there are parts of my game I love, and there are other parts of my game that need a lot more work. And, you know, I had to do a lot of self-reflection and look beyond the numbers, look beyond the stats. And, you know, there's still a lot of work to be done. So this is my summer of revenge, if you will.
Well, that's, I mean, a lot of self-awareness there, Jack. Karel, were you part of that conversation? If you guys don't mind, like, what are those things that you're focusing on going to this year? Because like you said, it sounds like it's just human nature for both of you. But if you're not getting better, you're kind of falling behind when in a position that evolves so quickly. So what are some of the things? Are they on the ice mostly, or they're, you mentioned earlier in this, and I forgot to follow up, like mean streak. You mentioned like, is it also just more experience and more managing the emotions in new moments, bigger moments over one more season?
I honestly think it's 50-50. The emotional and mental aspect of the game, I'm never going to stop learning about, right? Like that's just something as goalies, as we get older, I think you find new ways to manage and cope with stress and pressure. And for me, for the most part, I felt like I did a good job this year, but there's certain areas in the season where it was mental fatigue, or if it was frustration, where I still have a lot of growing to do. As a goalie, as a human being, as a teammate. And there's work that I do away from the ice, whether it's, meeting with the sports psychologist, whether it's doing some reading. Karel's given me the Hockey Tough book that I'm slowly working my way towards. That's just, the tip of the iceberg. And then obviously the technical side, that's what summers are for. So Karel and I meet every Tuesday, Thursdays, and we have a good group there. And then Fridays we do like a little power skate. So no pucks, and he pretty much works you to the bone. Last Friday was my first power skating, and I was pretty much on my hands and knees by the end of that one.
Karel, any thoughts on this next year and moving forward, and how tough is power skating? And like we're just going to keep going here. Power skating, like no pucks. How much of it is not just in the crease? Like we focus so much on crease movement, but how important is it as a goaltender, whether it's to facilitate puck handling or anything else, to be able to skate beyond just crease movements?
Which one would you like me to answer first? Next year or power skating?
Let's do power skating, and then we can wrap on next year, because if we don't wrap soon, I'll never wrap. You know this.
Yeah. So, I mean, every Friday, we have at Mega, we have 3 different groups. We have the girls group, we got the junior group, and then what we call the pro group, which is the college guys and above. And so every Friday we have all the goalies come. Like if you want to come. If you don't, fine. But here's the ice. We could have 10 goalies. We could have 30 goalies. So obviously none of it is crease movement. But all it is just an hour to really get skating down, right? Whether it's edge work, whether it's power moves with the bands, whether it's balance, footwork, and we do add some puck handling there. We always try to finish with a game because it's fun, and these guys get really competitive, and it's fun to watch. I mean, I don't know if you saw my story from 2 weeks ago. We had a little relay race where we had the goalies push the pucks with their forehead from blue line to red line. And goalies hated it. I found it comical. But, at the end of the day, they're all competitors. So regardless what the drill is, they're gonna work towards winning. And then that's what keeps it fun, right?
And to wrap it up, I promise, next year.
Yeah, next year. I mean, I'm really excited. Either way, I was supportive of Jack. If you wanted to come back, great. Let's do it again. Let's do it better. And if he left, that was fine too, right? At the end of the day, it's his decision, his and his only, right? And he confines with whoever he wants, whether it's his family, myself, the coaches, his girlfriend, his buddies, whatever, right? It's his decision, and I support whatever he does. Like there was a lot of questions of, oh, why didn't Jack go? Why didn't Jack go? I'm like, I don't know. You ask Jack. Don't ask me. It's his life, and whatever he decides to do, I'm okay with. So, I'm really excited. I'm really excited, and I think that, there's a lot of big moments in your career and in life, and that's one of them, right? So to have the awareness to say, hey, I'm not ready, and I think that I can stay here and make sure that when I arrive, I'm, in the NHL, I'm ready to go. And if that's what he feels like, then great.
One more example of the great relationship that you two have built there. Looking forward to watching more success there next year, guys. Really appreciate both of you taking almost an hour and 20 minutes. We're going to set a record here, but that's how much I enjoyed the conversation. I didn't want it to stop. So thank you. Thanks, guys, for taking this hour out of your summer to sort of fill us in on the path to here and all the exciting moments and developments that have gotten you guys to this level and everything that's ahead.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun, and maybe we could break some records on the podcast, do it a few more times.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
Good stuff, Karel. And want to learn and get to know Karel a little bit better on future episodes. I'm not giving anybody assignments or anything, but that's a guy that we can lean on, especially with his background and what he's been able to do in the goaltending world. And Jack, Carolina draft pick, Carolina's done a nice job with their selections of goaltenders. They've got a good young stable right now, Woody.
Yeah, led by Ned, who we've had on the podcast recently. Congratulations to him too. We forgot about that. Finished third in the Calder voting, so Calder Trophy finalist, but also the all rookie team in his first full year in the National Hockey League. That's a major accomplishment. So congrats to Ned. We're actually going to hook up with Ned in the next little while to do some pro reads. So keep an eye out for that at ingoalmag.com. Some fresh goalie voices and some fresh pro reads are on the way. They have done a nice job. I'm not even going to try and say the name of the young Russian who was at the World Juniors here in Vancouver a couple of years ago that they drafted here in Vancouver too in the third round, but I know they're really excited about him, as a lot of people are. And, just it's all about having that pipeline, right? So you don't have to, they're the prime example, right? They haven't locked into a guy at any point here. It's all about sort of making sure they have other, options, and they've done a nice job of making sure, starting with Ned. Now it looks like they're going to have a steady stream of internal options rather than having to go out on the market to find them.
So there's an opportunity there, and good on you, Woody, for kind of turning it around. Well, at least you stopped the descent into gloominess. I wouldn't say you're Mr. Bubbly right now, but you're not as crusty as you were at the start of the episode.
I was smiling the whole time. Like I had my flower smile on. I just had
Did somebody break your warm-up stick? Is that what happened?
Oh, you guys are going to love our upcoming gear segment on the Warrior line because
it was awesome.
We do talk a little bit about warm-up sticks. And guess what, clowns? Cam has my back on this one.
Oh, blind leading the blind. Well done, boys.
From the guy that wants to sell warm-up sticks. Like,
yeah, that's right.
Come on.
Okay,
I'm seeing where Cam's coming from.
Good point.
Although it's not a bad thing. Like a practice stick or a warm-up stick are not bad things, especially for parents. Like go out there, beat that thing up, and then use your good one for the games. I see the benefit in that. Although when you're Woody and you're trying to sell it to me, I'm a little bit on the other side.
You guys just give me a hard time.
Yes.
Let's be honest. Like the hardest part is when I have my little Woody fits and I want to smash it over the crossbar, I got to go to the bench and grab the cheap one.
As a parent, it made total sense to me because using that lower price point stick for the warm up makes a lot of sense. But in Woody's case, he probably plays on one of those teams where nobody hits the net. So who cares if he even has a stick in the warm up?
And you know what I need? I need a Woody warm up helmet, and it's got to be bubble wrap for all the like just a giant space helmet for all the guys that just ring it off my bean for warm-ups.
I don't know too many goalies that even take two sticks out for their men's league game. And what I would end up doing is forgetting my stick on the bench and get halfway home and go, drive back to the rink. So that would be my issue with it.
Whoa, hold on. As much as we wanted to wrap this episode, what the hell do you do when you break a stick then?
Borrowed one from a guy at the other end I'd never met before once.
I'd done that too. Absolutely done that. And it was the guy was a southpaw. And so the curve went against me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. But
how'd it go?
Still played. It was fine.
Yeah.
And you guys give me a hard time for actually having an extra stick. I'm starting to win this argument, boys. I don't even need Cam on my side.
Too bad we got to go. Got to wrap up this episode. I'd love to stay and chat, Woody, but time's our enemy right now on the podcast world. Thanks to Karel, Jack, Cam, and you, the listener, for being on this journey. 126. That's amazing. Still racking my brain about how impressive that is and how many people we've brought to you and been able to share in this this journey that is goaltending. So on behalf of Kevin Woodley and David Hutchison, I'm Darren Millard. Thanks for listening. We'll chat with you next week on In Goal Radio, the podcast.